percolating. Now we are actually live. So yeah, so we're just going to go live. We are live right now. We're recording, and the thing is it's true. So much of the best part of people's chats ends up nobody sees it because it all was before or after. So we're just going to hit record so nobody misses any of the good stuff. So this is Matt Landman, Sparrow, Clothesline, and many other things. I first saw Matt years and years ago at a conference, like kind of a truth conference in, I don't even remember what state it was anymore. I forget if it was, it was here in Arizona, I do believe, but it was years ago. So we've been keeping in touch ever since. And Matt's been on a few times, and we're going to catch up with all the extraordinary stuff that Matt has been doing because there's no way to really keep up. You have to just ask him once in a while. So
was it the Truth Mind Reality Conference in Phoenix?
it was the Truth Mind Reality Conference. Yeah, that was like in 1974, I think.
seems about there. Seems about right. And thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's funny because I'm trying to be as authentic as possible in my everyday life, in my world. And even when I get talking to you or other show hosts in the pre-show or something, then if I talk about it later, I don't feel authentic. And I'm like, yeah, because we were already talking about, and you know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't even like repeating myself when I do like a show next week or something like that. So it's interesting. Times are changing so fast, and I hope that you're thriving. So many people's worlds are falling apart. I think what it is, really quick, is that if you're honoring truth, or if you've been honoring truth and basically following your heart, following your soul, honoring truth in your own way, then the universe is most likely looking out for you right now. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you really wanted to homeschool? Well, guess what? Like, that's the thing now. Now other people are knocking on your door, like, can we join you, kind of thing. So if you weren't honoring your heart, soul, and truth, things are getting weird, and I know you're questioning whether you should be in these lines of work and what have you, or whatever you're at, and I feel like it's a big shakeup for a lot of people, and so much is being propelled exponentially. The seeds that I planted in my life, yeah, I mean, just so much has changed since that conference in Phoenix. Since that conference in Phoenix, where we met in, I want to say that was 2018, not that many years ago. I went after that to Tucson and hosted this big conference to stop Bill Gates from spraying the sky, from like officially dimming the sky with geoengineering and chemtrails and all that. I kept pushing my movie Frankenskies, but then I came out with a clothing line, and I never realized that my destiny. Oh, I want to pass the mic over to you to give you let you ask questions and stuff, but I just want to say it's been such a wild ride as an activist, and because I trusted and just really gave faith in it. So many people want to believe that the activist is never going to make money or be successful in any way, and the activist is like a bum kind of job or whatever it is. I'm thriving, you all. I'm leading the global industry, the global niche of EMF protective clothing. I've got the best company, and I'm super proud of it. And I never would have believed that I would have my foot in the door in all of these amazing realms and aspects. One of them that was unreal is I had these Faraday foam bags. I know you know about these because when I first because you have the hat on. That's one of the first hats that I made, is that beige tan hat that you have on. So thank you so much. I made those, the blue hats, and the foam bags. And I got all these foam bags out into the world. And what it was is these Faraday foam bags. You put your phone in and you don't get any signal. Well, the point is most of them stopped working. Okay, and I had to replace them and double up the layers of the fabric. And I've got triple fabric actually to make sure the 5G doesn't go through. It's 2 layers of silver and a layer of this copper composite. It's like totally different now. But what happened was there was an evolution of the phones right before our eyes. And just as we went through all these lockdowns and people started, quote unquote, getting sick, their phones were emitting exponentially more radiation than before, penetrating these foam bags that were designed to keep the signal from not getting out. And people are having these crazy symptoms like loss of taste and hair loss and stuff. And one huge elephant in the room, I believe, is the crank up of frequency radiation off of people's phones to harness the 5G or 4G LTE. People don't even know 4G LTE stands for long-term evolution, which actually means 4G LTE means 5G also. So it's like this 5G infrastructure mesh network is being created right before our eyes, kind of hidden in plain sight. But I firmly believe that this dystopia we're in has been a smoke screen for the rollout of the 5G and the crank up of radiation slowly but surely. It's been an amazing place for me to witness it all, because had I not devoted my life to activism, I mean, I thought I was going to be just a chemtrail guy passing out flyers forever about chemtrails. I never realized I would make a movie, host these conferences, and now have a company that's activism related. It's just been amazing. Yeah. So much to catch up on. How are you, brother?
Oh, no, I'm doing good. Doing good. Life is good. Just living here in Arizona, doing good. It's a fun time. Um, you know, uh, so yeah, I am not, well, how would I put it? Doing things that are different, of course, and doing a little show here. And we're trying to ramp this up for kind of 2022. Towards the end of last year, kind of trailed off a little bit. And the beginning of this year, been a little too busy to do it. But now we're really trying to get like a guest in a week or so. Really try to keep that. And because when you do weekly guests, that's when you get the not that it's about traffic, but in a sense, that's when you get a more active following. That's kind of like the magic number. One show a week, and you just become more and more popular. You get more and more listeners and such like that. And there's no sense doing it for nothing, right? So because you want to get you interviewing people that you believe in, messages that you want to get out. So that's kind of my save the world passion right there. And it's amazing how things take us, because sort of the Radiant Creators Project and doing this, it's purely really by chance. It just sort of happened one evening. So I'm sort of surprised to be here myself. Like, I didn't really plan on this. It was always interesting. It isn't that I wouldn't have done it, but then all of a sudden one day it's happening. So, and now it's something to keep up on. It's sort of it's created its own life, and I'm sort of its servant, and I have to keep on the ball and make it happen, or else I kind of have been given this gift that I don't really respect, and then you lose it. And that's not good. Everybody wants to save the world in some way. And that's kind of a grand vision. But the truth is, we're all given our little piece. And if we did it, then we'd be a lot better off, so people would follow that inner voice, just, hey, this is just keep doing something. Yeah. Like you said, following your truth. That's a big one. So if you're following your truth, if a person has been in the last couple of years, if they've been that spiritual truth seeker, if they've been, finding their center, if they've been on that ascension path, as people call it, then if you just keep doing that wherever you're at, something's going to turn up grander than you think. And then when it turns up, you're going to be like, wow, I got to get to work. I've been waiting for it, and now it's here. And I never quite realized that it would be work. Oh, I have to keep after this every day. This is a big investment, so it's fine. I like doing it. But so how are you? There's a lot of things to talk about, but one thing is, you mentioned people getting sick, and there's so many different topics we could go into. Want to talk about the clothesline and such, and what you've been up to, but there's kind of like three big things happening in the world. There's like the threat of war. There's definitely the 5G rollout. There's people that we're realizing now that people are getting, vastly sick from what they thought was something else. I'll try to be somewhat cryptic on what I say, only because we do get videos deleted, and it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
So I won't mention it, but there's people who are getting sick from graphene and things like that, and weird, research that's been injected into their bodies and things like that. And so that's because I'm seeing that becoming a bit of a social panic out there, as I think people are realizing, what did I do? And what did people that I know do? And how many of us know somebody who's caring for somebody who's sick from that? It's getting to be where most people in their contact list have somebody that's not there, or somebody who's now seriously maimed. So we're living in, like, there's war, which I think is the big wag the dog thing personally. There's sick people, and there is the 5G rollout. And the thing is, about with the war thing and the people being sick thing, gosh, and the 5G thing, if you think about it all, you put it together, that really is kind of maybe those like three big aspects of the great big totalitarian push that we're seeing globally right now. Because definitely they call it the empire or the globalists, they're making their move that they kind of documented back in the Georgia Guidestones a while ago. It's like that moment that we thought, oh my God, this may happen one day. It's here. We just got dropped on the chessboard. And if you're, like you said, if you're not focusing on truth, if you don't have that center, you're going to start creating in their reality bubble of fear. And that's not a good place to be. So yeah, how are you keeping in that reality bubble of love and feeling positive and creating while the world is probably the craziest I've ever seen it? I haven't lived that long, but in my lifetime, this is it. This moment.
So yeah, a lot there. How am I staying in the bubble of love? Is there's so much. I'm mineralizing. One thing that I'm doing is every single day I'm taking this supplement that's seriously caught up to me recently. It's I get it off the internet. You can find it on Amazon or whatever. Don't support them if you don't want to, or whatever. But it's Irish sea moss in a pill
Mm,
form. It's shredded down, and it's not just Irish sea moss because it makes it more bioavailable if it comes with these two other things that start with a B, bladderwrack and burdock. And
mm-hmm.
the three together, I just microdose it. It says take 3 pills. I take like 1 or 2 in the morning, and it's really been helping my mineral levels. And I could do a whole show on mineralization, but that's kind of like the core is focusing on my diet. I've been really trying to treat my body as a temple and be as authentic with my word and my thoughts and all these sort of
Mm-hmm.
things, and find a good balance. I don't do any wireless radiation. I know that sounds crazy. I've got all these websites and the internet company and all this stuff and 60,000 followers on Facebook or something. I don't do wireless radiation. I stay wired and I practice what I preach. A few things that I wanted to touch on before we lose them.
Yeah.
Well, one is there's a lot of frequency stuff going on, and owning your frequency and understanding what frequency is, and seeing this, like when you're depressed, know that you're going to snap out of it, and when you're really, really, really happy, know that that's not going to last forever either. And also understanding that it's a war of frequency. Well, okay, firstly, a lot of people don't even want to admit that we're in a war, so they'll think, oh, it's going to be over soon, or oh, I'll just keep letting my kids go to school until this is over, or whatever it is, because they don't want to hurt their pocketbook or devote their time and energy or anything. People need to admit where we're at so that we can start new things, start a new type of homeschool collective for the children, start a grocery store that honors freedom. All these, like if it was prohibition and they really were banning certain things, it's kind of loose and maybe you can get away with it at this place or whatever it is. There's a war on frequency for sure. But if you can admit that there's actually a war going on and act accordingly, maybe there's not bombs dropping from the sky, but we do need to honor the next generation like there is a war going on. So you talked about people getting sick and dying, and yeah, people are out there even wearing two face coverings, and looking at me like I'm crazy walking down the street whistling on a beautiful sunny day. And when you said that about the sick people, I realized that these people that are in the frequency of fear, they're getting even deeper into that frequency of fear, which on that frequency is probably denial. If they
Yeah.
if they convince their mom or sister to get the whatever experiment, and then all of a sudden we're in this dystopia where they've passed away, and they're like, okay, they've got to be deep in denial, deep in it. They're coming out with statistics and saying, no, nobody's actually died from this, and yada yada. They've got to be deep in denial, right? But it's a frequency, and in that frequency of fear, people are much more controllable, malleable, enslaved. And if we own the opposite side of that, we can really shine that light for others to see their way out of the dark. When I go to Safeway and I'm the only person with my face out, I'm honoring that frequency of fear. I used to kind of do it like cowering. I used to do it a little shook because people would yell at me and stuff. Now I do it with my head held high. I even think
Mm-hmm.
about what am I going to say when and if someone says something to me. Sometimes I just ignore them. Sometimes I think about am I going to I'm prepared now. And the last time someone said something to me, my heartbeat did not change. And I've thought about it. I was like, your heartbeat didn't even go through the roof this time. Like they're yelling at you and you're just like composed, you know? And
Mm.
you don't even have to start the dialogue with them, but we're becoming like these warriors of truth in our own ways. And it's amazing, but there's definitely this like frequency split where we're getting totally stronger, but they seem to be getting weaker. And you listed off these things that we're dealing with, and yeah, World War and all these things. But I am deeper down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Yes.
I'm not super ungrounded necessarily, but I think that this is all one big planned agenda. Like Agenda
Mhm.
2030, that's years out, right? And they're planning this out. And what they've done is, well, firstly, you got to think from the perspective of these evil boogeymen and their think tanks that are like all sociopaths. Got to put yourself in their shoes. It's hard to do, but they don't care about life or anything like that. And they all have their evil agendas, and they're all sitting in this evil group think tank trying to dismantle humanity and enslave us generational. It's unreal. And what they've done now is they've created kind of a generation of people that are willing to live in uh, a frequency of fear and control. And also in that frequency is they take authority as the truth, not truth as the authority. So anything they're told, they
Mhm.
believe it. Anything they're told, it's just like hook, line, and sinker. So I think that there's something weird on the horizon. Like they might actually pull off. It's kind of like a stupidity test. Every time something more comes out, it's like, oh no, you got to wear 2 masks outside. Maybe only if you want to. And then people are doing it anyways in their car. And I heard this somewhere. It's like, no one's enforcing you to do that. What are you doing? It's just like, it's kind of like a gullibility test, literally a
Yeah.
gullibility test. So, but that's pushing an actual like frequency. Like when I first got into chemtrails, people were like, "Oh, are they terraforming the planets to harness evil reptilian life or whatever?" It seems like they're terraforming the human to have them emit a frequency of lower vibrations. We are the creators, man. We own this whole freaking realm. We're the co-creator manifestors, and if you get everybody in this frequency of creating a lower vibration, then that could be the weird terraforming kind of thing that they're trying to do. To what ends? It's kind of a transhumanism dystopia where they're controlling our spiritual destiny potentially. So to snap everyone out of that frequency would be really powerful. You said, and I loved it, and I love you, thank you. But sometimes, including myself, we get a little. I'm not saying you're wrong, okay? But you said everyone wants to save the world, even a little bit. Does everyone? I mean, I
That's
know
true.
we do. I
Yeah.
know we do, brother. I know we do. And we are everyone, right? And I am
Yeah.
you, and these people in the grocery store who are yelling at me because of I'm breathing freely. Do they want to save the world, or are they willing to kind of compromise their integrity and like relive their karma and bring everyone down with them? Do they really want to save the world a little bit? I don't know. It seems like some people out there really want to live out this life so that they can come back and keep doing the karmic thing for a bit because maybe they're not ready to save the world. I don't know. I have hope. My clothing line's named Hope. It's Latin word for hope. I have a lot of hope, and I try to love every single buddy, but there seems to be an interesting divide being maybe it's being created on purpose, and that's no bueno because I'd like to hope that our spiritual destiny could be in God's hands, and I'm sure it is. But it seems like this divide. So imagine the divide is being created by the nefarious on purpose, and there's us, okay. And I hate to be like, oh, we're woke, or oh, we're awake, and they're not, or whatever, us, them. But look, I'm out there jogging with my face out. If you think that's a problem, then there is another side to my health. And if you're upset about my freedom, then there is another side to that, I guess. I hate to polarize everything, but it is kind of polarized. I don't want to play their game, but here we are. Here we are being polarized, being split. So if that split is being created, fear versus love and truth and all those things that are on the vibration of truth and all those things that are on the vibration of fear, imagine it like splitting so much that maybe two worlds are created or two, I don't know what is being done by design. Maybe it's actually not like a actual split in parallel timelines. Maybe it's actually two worlds on Earth, like two parallel worlds where people get to choose. You want to go out in nature and live with these um, crazy commune people in the forest, or you want to live in your smart city and become a robot. And people are literally given a choice of, I would call it heaven and hell on earth. And
Mhm.
that's the point, though. We're given choice, free will. Free will still kind of exists in a perverted way. And I think that that's kind of like the weird thing, because at the very end of it, I try to think like why, and at the very end, I see it as like some weird satanic agenda or something like that. It's not. There's some deep nefarious agenda. Okay, so here's where you said some very grounded things about World War and stuff like that. I think they're setting us up for digital currency for sure. That's on the horizon
Hmm.
quick. And social credit system attached to all that. But also, I think with all of the increase in chemtrails, there's been a lot more chemtrails recently, according to people that have been contacting me and such. And this whole setup for a bigger gullibility, stupidity test or whatever it is, I think that this year, I have a feeling that potentially, like I graduated top of my class with a master's in business administration. Like I have an MBA. I graduated top of my class. We did all the stats. I'm like a total
Yeah.
stats guy. I would say in my like with my intuition and my gut, along with all the numbers and whatever, I think there's like literally a coin's flip chance, and that's really high. There's like a 50% chance that something really crazy happens in our sky this year to dismantle our trust in truth, not ours, but theirs, the people that are already in the frequency of fear. Because to further push them and dismantle them into further fear would be to further control them. And if like something really weird happened in the sky, like a fake asteroid with Project Bluebeam, this holographic technology that could be projected on the chemtrails, or some like fake aliens, or Jesus came, or something that's like something that literally we will look at and be like, that is so fake. And we'll try to tell everyone that is so fake, but it'll actually further the divide, because we're
Mm.
already saying that right now. We're already being like, this is so fake. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? I just got my 5th experimental, DNA alteration.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? It's like
Yeah.
we have to honor our humanity and not be so divided, because the stars are aligning. The stars are aligning for a change of like governments. Basically, we're supposed to be like taking down and having like a spiritual revolution, a full-on revolution for the people. And the powers that be know that, and their game is to just divide and conquer and to get us fighting each other and split on so many ways, including this whole frequency thing that I'm trying to like discuss with you right now. And hey,
Yeah.
I do believe everyone wants to save the world in their own way. I just think that their passion for that is being like hijacked. Like they'll show you Hollywood and Superman, and they're like, oh well, you don't have webs coming out of your arms, so just go watch TV. You're cool.
Yeah. And it's true. Does everybody want to save the world? It's strange because, like you mentioned, people say, yeah, I'm on my 5th jab, And what's funny is I'll listen to people who are going down that path, which is definitely a fear path. It is. Um, and they'll brag about their side effects. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I was up for like 3 days, couldn't sleep. My entire body was screaming in pain. And they'll all joke about it. And you realize that. There is a splitting of humanity, and I tend to sometimes see it as, well, okay, for America specifically, since that's where we're sitting. I think we're sitting in America, both of us. It is America's Pluto return starting, which is like every 200 and some years or something like that. So if one believes in astrology, America will not be what it is. It's time for a new cycle. It could have a renaissance, it could have a total destruction. But if one believes in such things, then it cannot be the same. And it's going through that transit right now. So that's a big one. Then of course we've got the yuga's changing. So we've been in the Kali Yuga, of course, which is pure, straight up Stone Age spirituality, moving into a much higher spirituality. Now, many people do debate when that's happening, if it's happening now or later, but I'm just going to make the argument, I think it's happening now. And so if we are moving into a new age, I do think that, yeah, consciousness is, bifurcating. And I think that that's the thing. There's this extremism going on. I often call it, natural humans, or like organics versus inorganics, or, like kind of like, remember we all used to play orcs versus humans back when World of Warcraft first came out? I think they called it orcs versus humans. And so, and it is that, yeah, we are coming from a loving place, but like you're saying, you see it. So what are you supposed to do? Like you mentioned, like with a master's in business, for me working in technology for like 25 years and doing nothing but hooking into data and measuring things and such, it's like if I can measure it in a fair way that's not biased, I'm just looking at data out there. Yes, humanity is splitting into two different spiritual realities, and I would say two different multiverses. You know, I keep having this vision that one day there's just going to be like there'll be a lot of people missing for each side, and like one group is going to end up in this like burnt cinder of coal floating through space. And then the other one is going to be kind of like climbing trees and grabbing bananas and running around with their kids and stuff like that. So if you are attached to truth, like you were saying, and that's your dedication, that's where your sessile is, and you work on staying there, then the next thing you know, you've got a clothesline. The next thing you know, you're doing podcasts. The next thing you know, the money comes, and what you're supposed to do, you're doing. And I think for me, like more than ever, I have to trust in that because there's no other game in town. I'm kind of too dedicated to it to do anything else. So either I'm lost and crazy or I'm not. And so far it's worked for me. So, crazy or not, it's to me, it's too late. Only game in town. Got to do truth. Got to go forward because I, the orc thing doesn't work for me anymore. I can't be a transhumanist. It doesn't work for the organic soul.
No, not at all. But it's ushering, there's a new wave, there's a new age, and it seems to be ushering in. And for everyone that sees the writing on the wall, it's like I went to some movies the other day, and the woman asked, the cashier asked if she could round the quarter up. She said, "Can we keep the quarter?" And I said, "Excuse me, for a donation, for a cause?" And she said, "No, no, there's a coin shortage. We want to play our part and not stress the system." And I'm like, "You got quarters in the till, right? Like, give me my change. Give me my change, But I started to think about it. People just accept it. Like
Yes.
right when everything happened a couple years ago, when everybody's getting locked down, I saw signs at the post office, stop using cash, coin shortage. If you weren't already on that vibration of conspiracy theory, then you wouldn't already be thinking that they're trying to dismantle cash and totally win one over on you in all these realities. I mean, but then you see the writing on the wall. The one side of it is going to be like, oh yay, there's cameras everywhere. They get our temperature and make sure we are safe. And then the other side is going to see right through it and see there's cameras everywhere. They're tracking us and radiating us and monitoring us. There's no freedom and da 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 da. And what I've realized is like my trust in truth. Okay, so here's a dismantled, total dystopian future. 20 years from now, we've got more weird tech like these robot dogs. They put out robot dogs in Hawaii to make sure people weren't within 6 feet of each other, right? They've got robot dogs that cost $500,000 and they're putting them on the Mexican border. Like this is a dystopian future straight out of that Black Mirror episodes, right? So say we literally go into this dystopia. I had no idea this was going to happen. Right when everything started happening with the lockdowns, people contacted me, Craig, and said, "Hey, do you have shirts?" I said, "No, I've got phone bags and hats. Do you want a cap?" And they're like, "No, we need shirts. We need shirts." I mean, after 20 people had emailed me, "We need shirts," it doesn't take an MBA to be like, "I got to get shirts." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's been propelled. Like I just had to trust, and I never thought it would be anything like it is. So imagine a dystopian future, right? How do these robot dogs and these weird drones and all this stuff, how do they see people? It's through their biosignatures from their heart. It's through their infrared heat signatures. And lo and behold, my clothing is the only thing out there, except for like cool hunting gear that uses like carbon, I think. But either way, the silver is going to protect us from this stuff. So it's like, I don't know where the world is going, but I also trust that whatever they want to throw at us, that there's like spirit and God and truth and our like higher selves and infinite consciousness of the universe or whatever guiding us. And maybe, just maybe, all of this like butting heads is like a divine plan. Maybe it's all meant to be, because you're given choice here, like we said before, and what a beautiful thing it is to be given such a choice. I can't even stress it enough. So it's going to continue to get dismantled. I've been buying like the crap out of books. What I saw
Mhm.
happen when the first lockdown happened is my girlfriend's kids, they had nothing. Like we didn't have internet at the house, you know, so it was like they were always used to going to the library, going to Barnes and Noble, going to like small bookstores, and going to school. They had all this access to information and books. All of a sudden, we were locked inside. We didn't have TV, we didn't have Netflix. They had nothing, right? And I realized, oh my gosh, they're going to control the channels of information. You don't have to burn all the books; just control the flow of information. I
Yeah.
found I found this amazing movie called The Network, 1970s movie. Oh my gosh, you got to watch it. It's so
The
great. I was
network.
almost
Okay.
yeah no maybe it's called Network without the. So there's this one point where this guy's on this he's got a television show of some sort and it's got huge ratings and he has everybody go outside at once live and yell, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Like talking about the government and the world
Oh,
and stuff.
that
And people,
famous line. Yeah.
yeah, and people are yelling it and they're hearing their neighbors yell it. And it's like, I cried, bro, right? I cried. This movie was amazing. And then I started thinking, wait a second. When I tried to find this movie, it was like super shadow banned. And when I tried to find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it, couldn't find it. So then I looked up, where do I watch this movie? And it says it's only available on Amazon. And I was like, wait, I already looked it up on Amazon. So I go to Amazon and look it up. It's not there. It's literally not there. Look it up again, not there. Look it up again, not there. Look it up again, and I can buy the DVD. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. So then I'm like, okay, I got to go rent this somewhere or something to watch this movie. And I'm like, wait a second, why don't I just go to like DuckDuckGo or something and you know do it
Yeah.
a different way? Because there's many ways to skin a cat or whatever. Or I worked. This is just a funny side note. I've worked so many jobs, Craig. I've worked like 40 jobs, but I worked as a finance analyst with the MBA. And there was this friend of mine from Africa, just like straight from Africa in the finance department. And his English was funny. And instead of saying there's many ways to skin a cat, anytime they came up with a problem, he would say, you know, Matt, there's very many ways to kill cats. And I've always like thought that was like the funniest like thing because I'm like yes there are and we would work around the problem.
Do you mean like lions? Do you?
Like like you can solve a problem many different ways, right? So what was the tangent I was on? I kind of lost my train of thought. Can you remind me?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, we were both kind of cruising there for a while. You were talking about analyzing data as an MBA. Yeah, you know what? We actually joke right now. We kind of did lose our chain of thought there. I was listening, but I'm going to call it okay. So here's the deal, and this will lead on to other things because when we talk about 5G, right? Because
Oh, books. Okay, really quick.
books, yeah.
So
Let's go back to books. Yeah,
the flow of information.
flow
Okay,
of
so
information.
firstly, I went on DuckDuckGo. I finally
Hmm.
searched the movie network, and there it was. I clicked, and it's on Amazon. I watched it. It was on Amazon. I just paid the $3 and watched it. Okay. So what was happening? It was getting shadow banned. They control the flow of information. They buy it. They own it. They act like they want you to see it, but then they make it really hard to see. So very few people can watch this amazing movie that's very inspiring and what have you. So I started buying physical books, just buying physical books because I think that that is the real burning of the books. Like Kindle is like kindling. It's like
Hmm.
what you do to make a
Yeah.
fire. So I mean, if they lock everyone in their homes and all you can do is access the metaverse and the only library on the metaverse has these books, you're not going to see the ones that they want you to see. Like Frankenstein, like it got pulled from the platforms and whatever, and you look it up and you can't even find it. It's really banned, but it's there. Frankenskies.com. Thank you very much for checking out. Also, frankenskiesthemovie.com. Even if you haven't seen the movie, watch the first 10, 15 minutes. It starts in the 20s and it goes through the historical chronological timeline of weather engineering, weather modification. By the time it gets to the 50s and 60s, it's so obvious, self-evident that the weather is likely controlled, like almost all of it. So I started gobbling up books and I have these amazing books. And I started reading a lot of Wilhelm Reich and Rudolf
Yes.
Steiner and a
Yes.
lot of different people who I've just been quoting and putting memes up my whole life. But the Rudolf Steiner, I really dug into it. he talks about this 100 years ago. He
Yeah.
talks about and this is where I was going with all of it, the
Yes.
Ahrimanic force, basically the natural versus the unnatural world. And
Mm-hmm.
it's right here, like butting heads with us. What's really important is for us to find balance. Steiner says that please try to do like at least 50-50. If we can find that balance, especially as tech becomes even more pervasive, I bet most listeners don't spend half their time not on tech, you know? Try to spend half your time on tech and half your time not on tech, okay? Because technology wants to take 100% of your time and literally be this like pervasive force in your life. So there's a technology and a not, so it's natural and unnatural world, like nature and technology, right? And technology is like this Ahrimanic force, like it becomes, in the future, it becomes like transhumanism and wants to encapsulate everything, and then we have no balance, and the like people basically abandon soul and all that. And that's kind of the very beginning of the split we're looking at right now. It's like soul, which is natural, you know, which is like our divine spiritual destiny and evolution and all that stuff, versus technology, which technology is just like completely abandoning all of it and becoming like transhumanism, cyborg, and taking their whole dystopia because they want to roll out the 5G, keep doing the chemtrails, make it so people can't have babies, basically. Tell them they need to transfer their consciousness into cyborg, transhumanism, dystopia stuff, and completely make everyone in this like technology. And I think it's very spiritual. It actually becomes like a heaven and hell thing. But Rudolf Steiner really reinforces it. What's amazing is like the activist wears many hats. When I first started getting into chemtrails, some people were telling me like stick to that one subject. You have to be a specialist, and that was like an Edward Bernays thing, like trust the specialist, compartmentalize yourself, and all this stuff. And I realized no. The activist wears many hats. Check out actualactivists.com.
Yeah.
It's all these different truths, you know, and they all actually end up being this big umbrella. Like they end up being this octopus that interweave one another, like fluoride and aluminum. They're from the same thing. Like fluoride comes from melting aluminum. Mercury and aluminum, they mix together and wreak havoc on your brain. It's like one's from dental, one's from. There's so many different things. The people get deodorant with aluminum in it, women, and then that aluminum in the deodorant pools in your glands, especially in your breast tissue and different lymphs in your lymph nodes. And then, heaven forbid, you put a cell phone in your bra, and that just right there microwaves that aluminum. It's like putting aluminum in the microwave, or you just hold the phone in your hand, you're still microwaving that. I've got a book that this PhD, it's called Conversations with Aluminum Atom, I believe.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it's amazing. And he says 100% of breast cancer cases come from um, clogging your pores with aluminum, which is toxic, and then phones. So it's like the two connected. So if you become a specialist in one and not the other, you don't see the bigger picture. And the actual activist has to embrace truth as a frequency and honor all these things together. So as I started putting all these pieces together of the puzzle and learning, you know, what Wilhelm Reich has to say and Rudolf Steiner has to say, and like kind of honoring these truths by honoring these people by buying their books and stuff and preserving them, because my library is not going anywhere, you know. I think that like it's becoming more clear. Everything's becoming more clear, like where they're heading with it all. And it's like, I mean, Rudolf Steiner, he wrote a book called The Shadow Brotherhood, you know, and he's calling out the Shadow Brotherhood, the Illuminati or whatever, as they're forming themselves and trying to dismantle the potential of progress for humanity. They're trying to steer humanity in their own direction. Oh my gosh, so much has been coming up. Let me just go on one more tangent, Craig, before
Oh,
I pass it
yeah.
to you. So while we're learning all these different truths, it's like there's weird things like controlled opposition that are like introducing the
Yes.
truth to us, but in a crazy way. So we don't. So we'll like go down that rabbit hole, but in a crazy way, and then show it to people in a crazy way, and then they don't believe it because it's been steered with this attachment of like fear the whole time. So it's important to learn how to discern on your own and to see through what's lies and to understand it on your own and all this stuff. So there's been this big talk recently in the fringe community about world fairs and whatnot. And I've done some digging in the world fairs. And what's really fascinating is I never learned about these world fairs ever growing up. Okay, I went through all these levels of education. They said the public school system that I went to just outside of DC in Northern Virginia, Fairfax County Public Schools, they said it was the best public school system in the country. Then I went to Virginia Tech, got a marketing management degree. Then I went to Cal State school, got another degree, a master's. I mean, like, how did I never hear the word world fair if all of this stuff was going on? So now I'm learning about it. And I just want to say one thing. In
Oh, go for it.
1904,
Yeah.
yeah, in 1904, there was a Buffalo, New York World Fair. And in
Yes.
this, the centerpiece of the Buffalo World Fair is this Tower of Light, I think it's called. And it's this big tower, like 50 feet tall or something like that. And I'm going to explain it and then I'm going to back up and tell you how it works. So
Hmm.
there's this big tower in the middle of this huge festival called the World Fair in Buffalo Exposition. And at the top of this tower, it's literally beaming rays of light to all the buildings, like looks like spotlights. It's a beautiful thing to see, especially if you're living back in 1904. So it's beaming these spotlights to all the buildings. It's like this beautiful thing of light. And the light is actually beaming electricity. So it's like shining light and shooting electricity to all of it. And the whole thing is being powered by this tower. So the tower's getting electricity beamed to it from
Yes.
Niagara Falls 20 miles away. So 20 miles away, there's energy being harnessed over the etheric flow of just the water falling like a couple hundred feet or however tall Niagara Falls is. So there's this displacement of etheric energy or of ions or orgone energy, Wilhelm Reich calls it. Because of this flow of displaced energy, it's being somehow harnessed and beamed 20 miles, free energy, harmless, etheric energy is harnessed and beamed 20 miles to power the entire fair. Okay, if that wasn't in my history books, I don't know what the heck should have been. Like, give me a break. That should have been in my history books. We should have talked about that during my science projects when I was freaking 10 years old, when I was in high school, like all the stupid science classes that they made me take and all these
Hmm.
things. Like, it should have been mentioned. Like, oh, that was neat, but they decided not to go that way or whatever. Like, it was never mentioned. I don't know about whether there was a Tartarian empire or whatever before us and all of this. And some of this stuff that can't be proven is kind of ungrounding and what have you. What is true is some evil humans seemed to come together around 1900 and completely plan our demise. Okay. So they're like, no, we're not going to give them that free energy. We're actually going to burn all of this, cover all this up. Everything's getting burned. So they burned the Chicago World Fair. They dismantled the San Francisco and burned the San Francisco World Fair. They burned down the Buffalo World Fair. The St. Louis World Fair is enormous. Burned it, buried it, hid all of it. And it's like millions and millions of people. Like, the numbers are unreal. The Chicago World Fair had like 100 million people into it. These other ones are like 50 million. I mean, the scope, all of it is unreal. And they were able to hide it all. So on an energetic level, this evil seemed to come to Earth at the turn of the century, like the late 1800s, to like set up the Federal Reserve, fluoridate the water, start to dismantle the agricultural system, and all this sort of stuff. Like, slowly but surely introduce chemicals and big pharma and DuPont and Bayer, all these freaking evil. But what's fascinating, what's really cool, is what happened when all that evil came to Earth. There was a reaction, okay? And that reaction was like Krishna, Rudolf Steiner, Wilhelm Reich, um, all these different weird, amazing personalities that were way ahead of their time, that were actually like seeing the future, like Edgar Casey, if you're into him, and like I could rattle off a lot of names, and they seemed, I mean, a lot of spiritual leaders and what have you, they seem to be the antithesis to the evil that was trying to hijack our reality. But look at what they did. They came and right when we got television, okay, I mean, we're a young, naive kind of species in the whole programming of it all. So we're given this little television set, and almost immediately on that set is we're going to the moon, which was completely fabricated, but that dismantles everyone's reality for a generation. And
Mm.
the first movie on VHS, the first freaking VHS movie, the first movie that you could replay and program yourself and watch over and over and over and over is 2001 Space Odyssey.
Really?
Right. So people are watching, and then through NASA and this very early movie, all of a sudden, boom, people, NASA and Hollywood, and now there's a construct in the consciousness of what space is and
Mm.
what and where we are and who we are and all of these things. And then fast forward, and this love for the tech, okay, because this is this nostalgic thing. That TV showed us this amazing success. You know, we're global leaders and we, you know, beat the Russians and all this stuff. Then the TV went color. Then the TV dismantled the family unit. It dismantled the family unit. That technology, now it's an iPad, and soon it'll be a chip in your kid's head if you let it. So it's like
Yeah.
that tech has like spiraled out of control generationally, created and supported all of this trauma and brainwashing and mind control to the point now that the phones are emitting this frequency that may dismantle, I mean, totally dismantle your ovaries, mess up your sperm, mind control you, tell you how to think, how to feel, who to hate, what to wear. And people are freaking taking selfies with two masks on. I mean, like, come on, where are we at?
Yeah. No, it's true. Like I I walk the dogs through a nearby insanely wealthy neighborhood, and I got nothing against wealth at all, so it's not that. But I walk the dogs and I look in the windows because it's right now in style to have a house that looks like a fishbowl. Everything's open, like it's just like the height of vanity. Like it's not just that you have nice things. Your house has to be a glass bowl on display, you know, so everybody can
Mhm.
see them because it's not good enough. You have it. You have everyone has to see it. It's weird. People live in showrooms now. They do. So but when I walk by, I see these great big mega TVs on the wall, these like mega TVs, you know, and I often can like look over and I'll see like a mega TV in like more than one room of the house because the houses are kind of all glass now. It's crazy, right? Well, so the thing is, and what do I see? One of the top MSMs, it's either going to be Fox, it's going to be CNN, or it's going to be MSNBC. And if it's not that, it's sports. And I think to myself, why even bother? Like, it's weird, but you think, okay, so you have all this wealth now, but you're a dumbass. I mean, you're on the wrong side of evolution. Like, I don't know how you got your money, and I don't care. And it's nice that you have it, but it's weird, you know. So you look at the, oftentimes think of a lot of the elite as we think of them. Now I don't mean like the the dark reptilian hybrids behind the empire or whatever. I'm not talking about the very, very top, but in a sense, even the elite for the most part, they're just dumbasses doing what they think they're supposed to. Because I look at that, people worth like tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, they're watching CNN, the whole lot of them. And you're just thinking, man, you know, in a way, it makes me feel hopeful because you and the people listening to this and myself, I mean, the advantage you have in the coming times is unfathomable. And there's no chance you're listening to this. You're supposed to be because I don't think what I'm seeing over there in that neighborhood has much to do with the future. And I don't dislike what's over there in that neighborhood, but it has no future. And it's like you mentioned Araman. So this is a thing that I've been seeing quite a lot of is why is there this renaissance? There is a renaissance happening. So um, uh, um, you look at Steiner, you look at the concept of radionics, of Rife frequencies, of pyramids, of orgonite you mentioned. In a sense, most people have their orgonite, you know, pyramids with different things in them in their house. They've got their salt lamps. They've got you know, how many people do you know who have a Rife machine attached to their computer? You know, that's a cool use of technology in a sense. Yeah, these spooky 2 Rife machines, these huge databases of frequencies, you know, you want some C60, just put your data in and send it to yourself, you know, and where that's kind of an out there concept for many people, I find that more and more people are asking, "Oh, is that a Rife machine? Where can I get one of those? I didn't know you could just get that." And I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's like $90, you know, you can get it, you know." Um, so we're seeing a renaissance in response to what's happening right now as everything heats up. You know, as the atoms start moving faster, we're seeing kind of two cymatic patterns of sound overlaying each other. and there's a little bit of a gap between them, an air gap. We're like aware of each other, but we're absolutely different, and each becomes stronger and stronger. And yeah, something's going to happen, like you mentioned, I think, where people, I don't want to use the term wake up, but more and more people just sort of, uh, even for people that are very mundane, you might say, who are very, like, you call it non-spiritual or whatever, eventually, logic will break their perception. Just seeing what is will break their perception eventually. And I know I'm seeing it. And you mentioned the World's Fair and the energy over in Russia. I don't think they're actually using them anymore, but they actually did make the great big Tesla towers and the energy with a great big sine wave. It's a transmit energy. They did it. I guess it was a prototype and it worked, but I think it's been dismantled. But if you got in the hinterlands of Russia, you can find them. People have taken pictures of it and such. That they actually used it. They kind of proved the concept, at least. And when it comes to books and history, like Cliff High, a great character, was talking about, it's really great if you don't have them to go and buy old encyclopedias. If you go to the thrift stores, you can buy them for $1. You know what I mean? Get the oldest dictionaries and encyclopedias you can, and then look at those and see how history has changed. He goes, get an old enough encyclopedia, and you'll realize, wait a second. One of the things that he pointed out was how in the older encyclopedias, and he goes, if you can find pictures of art galleries, black and white, very old, you'll see where people used to have like the pointed heads. If you think about it, like the Renaissance pictures where the people had like the longer elongated skulls, but they'd have like the hat on and such. He goes, look now in the encyclopedias or in online and such like that, you'll find that that's missing now. The elongated skulls have kind of disappeared from encyclopedias and the internet and art museums of old art. Those pieces have just sort of disappeared. So anyway, I thought that when you mentioned history, it's like they are kind of, in a way, there's a lot of history that's getting erased and we don't realize it because it's just not there. Like you mentioned, you just never saw it, so you didn't know it existed. It's wild. And something else about the craziness, I'm kind of curious what you think of this. The sun is very active right now. And the thing is, so we just like a day or so ago, we had, if you watch space weather, like a mega solar flare, coronal mass ejection. It was the biggest I've ever seen. I've been watching for years, but it was facing away from the Earth. If that was facing towards the Earth, we would have probably had some problems. And then you think about SpaceX. They had 40 satellites get messed up by solar weather. And I think that I've been following that and how did that happen? There's different takes on it. But in general, it just appears that they just got zapped by space weather. And so in a sense, our sun is, I think our sun is part of our evolutionary leap that's going on right now because the sun is just insanely active. We're in like a grand solar minimum cycle where it's kind of its overall resonance has been going down. So our ionosphere gets weak. But now that it goes into like a 11-year cycle peak of solar activity, it's off the charts going nuts. It just did like a almost sort of like a humanity wiping out event, but going the wrong way. So we're living in a time where the sun, I think, is I think it's reflecting the energy of the times right now. It's getting pretty sparky up there.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. That could be part of what's next with the Project Bluebeam. If something crazy happens in the sky, like a whole bunch of northern light looking things, and then everything's EMP'd and dismantled, I'm not gonna buy it, brother.
I dig it. No, I like it. I like it. No, tell me. I like it. I like it.
Because they have these things on in the cards, and something seems like it's about to happen. So the satellite thing, why didn't it affect anybody else's satellites? How come just his? I'm curious. How come just his has satellites got impacted?
That's very logical. I wondered that too. Exactly. Like, why did it wipe these out that were, there's been a lot of reasons. People have spoken about how and why and what, but in general, it's true. There are satellites that are closer to the sun that were in the area. There's crap tons of them up there. So why didn't they all fall out of the sky? It's very, very true.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what to say about all that. And it seems like that that could be one of. So me and my friend are trying to joke around and make light of it, but not give it energy. But we're doing a bingo,
Mm-hmm.
of potential Armageddon kind of thing. One of them is asteroid passing by, asteroid
Mm-hmm.
hitting Earth. One of them is solar flare, but the asteroid either hitting Earth or passing by, I don't think it'll actually hit Earth or pass by. It'll just be projected on the Project Bluebeam hologram thing,
Mm.
and it'll be able to make crazy tsunamis and earthquakes with their HARP technology. I think the
Oh.
goal is to make some tsunamis
Mm.
or earthquakes, to fabricate them. If they can, again, back to Rudolf Steiner, he talks about Ahriman coming from the west, and it's the antithesis of Jesus rising in the east. And Ahriman is, I think, going to be this transhumanism dystopian thing, because something's going to happen to dismantle the West Coast, and then once it's rebuilt, it'll be so transhuman at RoboCop, like Demolition Man, weird dystopia, um, that they'll be able to pull off this like super darkness that they're looking to pull off. If something happens in the sky this year, I'm not buying it. That's it.
I
Just
like it.
period. So
So you heard it here, folks.
yeah,
don't
exactly.
don't look up.
So I had to look it up while you were talking, and I didn't want. I am very present.
Oh, I
So
understand.
150 private jets left LA within 5 hours of the Super Bowl. So over 150. So within the Super Bowl ends, and all these private. If you own a private jet, you're what, a multimillionaire, right? If
Hundreds
you're
of
flying,
millions in general.
yeah. If
Hundreds of
you're
millions.
flying on a private jet, you're rich. So I was looking at that. Someone posted that the other day. They're like, these people don't care about global warming. They're going on private jets to and from the Super Bowl. Like right after the Super Bowl, all these private jets left the Super Bowl. And when you were talking, I was like, dude, these idiots like going to the Super Bowl? Don't they have something better? Don't they know it's rigged? Don't they know
Exactly.
it's like satanic, this and that? Like, I don't even watch it. I
No
don't
way,
even
I
watch
don't.
it. I don't even watch it for the commercials. And like, I like to, look, I don't read the USA Today. I don't go to marketwatch.com. I don't go to Wall Street Journal, but I actually do, just to
Yeah, the
see
headlines, the gist.
what
You
they're
read it.
saying,
Yeah.
what they're trying to
Yeah.
do. And like often I'll have to laugh. So I will watch the Super Bowl commercials to see, and I will watch the halftime shows to see the freaking satanic stuff. This year, I was like, I'm not even giving it the energy at all. But there's like multimillionaires going to it and supporting that. Like just like you said, don't they know that they're like, are they
They
that
don't.
dumb? They go
Yes.
home and put on Fox News and
Yes.
get their little memo. Oh yeah, Satan's gonna take over. Don't live in LA or something. Like, okay, all this, like, but they still watch Fox News. They think that they're in the know, but they still are watching the mind control and like what, drinking fluoride and like inhaling the chemtrails and being like, oh, whatever. It's like, I just like, get with it. If you're gonna be on the side of evil, at least like
Be
own it.
better at it.
Yeah,
Be
come
better at
on.
it. I mean, what's the point of so how do you enjoy like those like hundreds of years of ancient evil you get if you're eating McDonald's and you're unhealthy? You know what I mean? It's because so that same household, like where they have the mega TVs and this and that, and you can see all the rooms and they're all watching CNN or Fox, whatever it is. Then I see what's that? They deliver food. It's like, oh, whatever they call it, Grubhub or something like that,
Yeah, DoorDash, yeah.
delivering McDonald's, like a big mega bag of McDonald's. And you're just thinking like, man, I start feeling good. I'm like, cause you know what? In my little hobble, I've got organic bananas, man. I'm like, I'm
For real, it's
for
true.
real.
No, where I live, it's getting really dystopian and really rich. And like, if you even try to find a place to live, they're like, "Show us your papers," and you're like, "What?" And it's like, "Well, we have a lot of people." What happened here? Oh, we haven't spoken. About a year and a half
Yes.
ago, my town was burned to the ground. I live
Oh,
in Talent, Oregon, which is right next to Ashland, Oregon, and Talent was obliterated. We lost about 2,300 low-income homes, and it was crazy geoengineered winds, um, a- accompanied with these smart meters that do not have a surge protection to the main line, and also fire hydrants that did not work. So when
mm,
the Oh, also Antifa lighting a bunch of fires. It was like the perfect storm. So the Antifa a-holes lit all these fires all up and down Oregon. But where I live, they lit these fires, crazy winds. And when the firemen came, the fire hydrants didn't work. and the emergency broadcast didn't go out. 2,300 homes, boom, 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 primarily low income. They have not rebuilt these low income homes. They're still in rubble. A year, and this was September 9th, about a year and a half ago. Not last September, the year, September before that. Since then, I've like I've just watched as like these people like we've got literally people that don't know where to go. They've had to leave the area. All of these really super mansions that are in the hills, they're just selling. All of these people are moving to the area that are just rich and rich and rich and rich and rich and rich and rich. And I'm witnessing it myself. These really rich restaurants are popping up. All the old things, the little sandwich places and all these little things are just dying off left and right. And I'm going somewhere with this. I go and I poke my little head in, and I mean, my company's doing well. I could probably afford going to these nice restaurants. I looked at the menu, Craig. I'm happy with my organic banana, bro. They still aren't. They're still not eating organic. Their steaks, their overpriced steaks, are not grass fed. Their overpriced fish are not freaking wild. Like everything that they are eating is still toxic, and they're paying all this money for it. And
It's
like you
microwave.
said,
Yeah.
yes, they're Grubhubbing and DoorDashing and sitting in their mansions and still eating poison. Like they're not even educated. How could you be so rich? Get a tutor, have someone come over and walk you through life and be. But they're in this vibration, right? They're in a
Yes.
vibration where McDonald's lives, where paper money is a lot. It's like the physical world is like a vibration where sex and greed and physicality is like way more. And as you elevate out of that vibration, what I started to think when we were talking, which this could be God's plan, like the devil might be really trying to split us. But imagine a vibration, right? A frequency. It's got ups and downs. It's got peaks and trough or whatever, up top and bottom. Imagine we're the frequency, you know. And as we get higher and other people get lower, our bandwidth gets wider, right? And by widening our frequency, it makes it like a higher low, a higher high, and a lower low, right?
Yes.
But by having that, we can bounce out of it and create even higher vibrations in the end, you know? So just being that high, no matter how low the low is, as long as we can be that real high, we can own it. But yeah, all those people that are like, more money for me, more money, more money, more money. And then they're reveling in what, like driving these like a multi-million dollar, what, I don't even know how they get off on what they do and stuff like that. I've actually tried it. And you know what? I was laughing at myself this morning that when I started making some money last year, I got a new pair of shoes. And I looked at the shoes and the shoes are totally grubby now, right? But it's like when those shoes got dirty, I still was making money. And I wasn't like, I'm going to get more shoes. I'm going to get more new shoes. More new shoes. I was just like, I'm just going to keep on living my life. And like the shoes are filthy, you know, and I'm just like not that kind of person, I guess. Like I will get myself some new shoes, but I'm just like laughing at my priorities, right? And then other people's priorities. Like I cannot help, and I know this is mean and cynical, but I cannot help but just scoff at and laugh at these people. They're literally in a Mercedes Benz with not one, often two, but maybe one mask on, and they're in the mirror getting themselves like ready and like maybe even taking a selfie. And I'm like, you're so out of touch with what's really important. You know, what's really important is your connection with your fellow humans, which you have none, you know, when you're covering up your senses and no one can see you for who you are. Like, you know, what's really important is your connection to the natural world, nature. What's really important is like how you treat your children and the people around you. Money is not everything. And the system might come crashing down in a weird way and then get digitized and all that. But even more, the more they pervert it, the more we've got to see that money is not everything. The more that I've like acknowledged and honored my spirituality and find myself in a meditative state, oftentimes it's not on purpose. You know, I get up really early or something. I'm, you know, in the zone or whatever. But the more that I find myself in these like elevated states of consciousness, there's no money or sex or greed or lust or anything or debauchery or any of that stuff up there, you know? Like, and what's funny is the more that I own truth and authenticity and integrity, then the money flows in. Imagine that. So, and that money, I feel like it's easier to like maybe make a movie with it or do something good with it because it's kind of righteous money. Like if your money has blood on it, you know, and you're keeping it and like not helping out the world. I don't know. I think there's a vibration with everything, and the current, the frequency, the energy, the current, the energy is attached to the currency. There's so much word magic around everything that we have to own it, and everything that we do is the vibration that we emit.
Oh, absolutely, and that's a good exercise for a person to do is what lives in your vibration because everybody's got one. You start thinking, does McDonald's from Grubhub and CNN exist in your vibration or what? And so that's a great one for people to do is to look at your vibration and think, well, hey, what lives in there and edit it. Make it a right. You might say like what works and what doesn't because along with all the cool, you could say like spiritual technology or spiritual technology like Steiner. And we interviewed, his name is Dale. Is it Brunswick? Dale, I forget his last name, but he's the guy who does all the reading for Rudolf Steiner Audio Archive. If you've
Mm,
ever, he's pretty much his life goal is to read everything that Steiner wrote, every lecture, everything. And he probably won't get it done because he created so much material. But it's an audio archive, and he puts shows out just about every week. And he's read all the major Steiner books and such. And so I think it's Rudolf Steiner or Steiner Audio Archive. And I actually did a deep dive with him for like 2 hours. We talked about because I love Steiner myself, and I'm like he is an amazing authority of knowledge on it since he's been studying it for so long and reading it and such. And no, I think Armand is definitely, I think he has made his manifestation, his physical manifestation, like Steiner said he would at this time,
mm,
as transhumanism, because it would be
mm,
robotic, it would be a machine, it would be a machine human integration. So Armand's here, and then you've got the Luciferian energy, which Steiner put is basically, it's like the love of art, where some love of art is great, but you can also not like this world because it's not perfect, and it's really interesting. So we have this profound, really powerful renaissance of extreme spirituality that's coming right now. So where you see this, there's just once again, there's this extreme polarization going on, and like another one that I see, I think one of the things that is kind of getting touched on here also is reality creation. Like Neville Goddard, you may have heard of him. This guy, he was back in the I think he died like in 72 or so, but he was teaching his whole life this extreme spirituality of, well, the law, how reality works, and then also what we are and such like that. So he was kind of a like a Steiner, you could say, but very, very different teacher doing different things. And one of the things he mentioned was that we are in a state of constant prayer, and all prayers are answered. So your every thought, word, and deed is not going into history; it's going into your future and manifesting this moment. And so, if we have control over that, if we realize that there is no out there, there's only in here, pushed out, like in a dream. If you're talking to
mm,
somebody, who are you talking to? It's ultimately you, and
mhm,
that is this reality. All things that we see are shadows of our man, are of our emanation, of our belief, of our mood, of our, and so I think we have a whole lot of people, part of the tribe, who know that, and they're working on Steiner. They're working on reality creation, not for selfish reasons, just so life isn't a pain in the ass, so that it can be joyous and easy and flow, and they can protect themselves from all that's going on. So it's strange, like I think 2022 is going to be a year. I wonder what you think. 2022 is going to be a year of yes. There'll be those that are not seeking truth, who have not been seeking truth, who some will wake up, but in general, it's going to be difficult for them. Then we're going to find people who are thriving in 2022 in the midst of, you know, um, that biblical line, at peace in the midst of hell. Like you're right in it, but you're at peace and you're radiating this vibe and you're part of what's next, whatever it is. And you just go, I have nothing I can do other than basically trust the I am,
mhm.
that presence, because it got me here. And I'm at that point where that's the only game in town. I really can't go with anything else.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And there's a whole wave of people that are just waiting for that organic grocery store that honors freedom, or that
Mm.
venue that kind of bucks the whatever the tyranny is that is in your town or city or neighborhood or whatever. Like every place is different. That's what's so strategic right now. if the lockdown was the same everywhere in the country, everywhere in the world, everywhere in your state, then humanity could say, no, we don't want that. And we'll stand up and say no to that. But no, it's not like that. It's like, hey, come join our rally. Well, we're fine over here, actually. Nothing's happening in my town because we're really Republican or whatever. You know, that actually is very smart and strategic. So then it can dismantle little communities at a time without letting everyone rally together under one, boot of tyrannical authority, which a lot of us can recognize, but not so much. I mean, just think about how smart they've been with it. The term conspiracy theorist,
Yes.
conspiracy theory, they own the vernacular. I mean, we're in this uphill battle where we've been labeled, repeating that label, a term that was created to dismantle the JFK assassination way back then, still being repeated and pushed by the media. Something really fascinating for people to understand is some truths will actually get um, released by the controlled mechanisms like the media. Like they'll
Hmm.
come out with stuff before you even heard of it. And they'll say, oh, have you heard of chemtrails? These crazy conspiracy theorists think that you're getting sprayed with poison and that they're trying to kill you. But maybe one day we'll use this theory to spray harmless metallics in the atmosphere to save you from the sun. Because whether or not it's true, which I don't think it is, there's been a lot of fear mongering around the sun. Like the sun is our friend, like the sun
Hmm.
gives us life and gives me a suntan and makes my plants grow. And blocking it is not the best thing. I don't think it's anything that needs to be done. I don't think there's even global warming and all of these things that need to
Oh
happen.
yeah.
If
Hmm.
there is global warming, it's because they're making it happen like in different regions through geoengineering, through chemtrails. They'll spray chemicals in the sky, metals, mix the chemical metals, zap them with ground-based stations intersecting microwaves, like a microwave literally, and heat the atmosphere to near the temperature of the sun to make heat waves and drought, steer weather patterns and stuff like that. That's your global warming. That's your
Hmm.
climate change. That's everything. And it's already the geoengineering. They want to say that the solution is geoengineering. It's like textbook problem reaction solution Hegelian
Hmm.
dialectic. And that leads me to talking about my next movie that I'm working on slowly but surely, Frankenstein's 2. So
Yeah.
you can check out the progress at frankenskies2.com.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll have a trailer up soon. What's interesting about this one is, again, lots of dead ends, just like Frankenstein's 1. And when Frankenstein's 1, I really wanted to get it out like in 2015. I didn't get it released until June 2017, but in the end, it was divine intervention. All these things came up, such as new clouds. 12 new clouds were introduced to the world
Oh
through
yeah.
the controlled, media and whatnot. And the word geoengineering was introduced as the savior. Bill Gates wants to dim your sun. You're welcome. And all of this stuff happened that I was able to include in the movie that wasn't otherwise going to be in it if I had come out with it when I wanted to. So things got in the way, and I believe in divine timing now. And now the movie, I really wish it was already out, Frankenstein's 2, but I think all in due time. So this June in Kiruna, Sweden, Bill Gates and the opposition, which is that what's her name? It'll come to me in a second. The Swedish girl,
Oh, Greta.
um, Greta, Greta
Greta.
Thunberg or whatever. She and the Swedish NASA and the Swedish military are the like opposers to it. So they want to govern it properly and make sure it's done right. But it's all like this controlled horse and pony show to show the public, look, we know what's best, and we've come up with this thing called geoengineering. So in June, Bill Gates and his minions, which is like a Harvard professor named David Keith and these other characters, they're going to spray the sky in Kiruna, Sweden, in a place and time in the world where the sun does not set. So the sun's up for 24 hours a day in June in Kiruna. They're going to do an experiment spraying the skies with these high-tech balloons and spray these different chemicals, mixing aluminum in the atmosphere essentially to see which variables work best to dim our sun. And when that happens, the headlines will likely say, hey, we've come up with a potential solution. It may be really dangerous, but we're going to do it anyways. And this will be the idea of dimming the sun publicly and having more and more geoengineered skies and chemtrails publicly to quote unquote save us from global warming, climate change, or whatever. But if you put a layer of aluminum in the atmosphere, there's a real greenhouse effect, people, and global warming will really take off. And then they'll say, oh, we need to do
Mm.
more. It's not working. We need to do more. And it will actually cause some actual harm and problems. So that's happening. And hopefully Frankenskies 2 involves some activism in Sweden. I don't know how I'm going to go over there or anything like that with all these new laws and medical papers and all that jazz. But in a perfect world, the Swedish people would rally together and put this experiment on hiatus, like we did in Tucson a few years back. But we'll see, and that'll be part of Frankenskies 2, climate chains, like
Mm.
shackles.
Oh, I
And I
like
did
it.
have, yeah, I had a crowdfund going on GoFundMe, and bless everyone for all the amazing help that I've had on GoFundMe. I've had help with Frankenskies, the movie, help with conferences, help with launching my clothing line. I'm so blessed. Even you have donated on my GoFundMe. Thank you, Craig. I've seen your name on there. Bless you. Thank you. Yesterday, I deleted my GoFundMe account. I was just like, I can't do it. They seem super evil, and if they're not being who they say, I just have to just bite the bullet. So I had Frankenskies 2, like GoFundMe was like halfway there, and I had to just make a decision, And sometimes you got to make these hard decisions. What are you going to do? And when I was in film school, my film professor called it killing your darlings, because when you have like a 3 hour long film that's supposed to be an hour or an hour and a half, you got to cut things out that you love. And
Yes.
these are things that you're in love with. And you just got to throw them away. No one ever sees them. If you're an artist, you might get it. So yeah, that's the world we live in, is just kind of learning to discern and putting out what's the most important kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the word conspiracy theory, that term is true, arriving after JFK was, taken out. And talk about breaking a person's mind who has the ability to discern. When you call empirical research conspiracy theory, where does that leave a person? Because
Hmm.
they go, wait a second, you could say this is science, this is that, this is research, this is validated, this is evidence, these are facts, these have worked all through human history, kind of, and now they're conspiracy theories. So it's sort of like empirical research no longer exists. It's like to something you were saying earlier, only authority exists. And and that authority is based on who the globalists tell you, is money, and who the globalists tell you is authority. And Greta is a very interesting character where there's people who like no longer talk to me because I don't buy Greta. My take on it is, if a person is discerning, I look at it like this: a strange looking Swedish girl who's older than she looks, who's kind of dressed up to sort of impress pedophiles with the pigtails and everything like that, the braids. Um, how is she speaking to the UN? That shit doesn't just happen. If a
No.
person doesn't get that, I'm like, dude, she's like a weird global elite freaking pedophile weirdo wet dream. She's autistic, sort of, and she's speaking to the UN, yelling at them. Oh, did she email somebody? Like, no, that didn't just happen, people. Come on, But I guess if it's on CNN, on your mega TV, and you're eating your, like, brain deadening. Actually, what Steiner said, that a potato is deaden the intellect. Do you want fries with that? Yeah, he actually did it. I found it. Someone referenced that to me. And I went and they sent me a link, and I was like, oh my God, it's real. Steiner was like, yeah, potatoes make you stupid.
Hmm.
Well,
It is
anyway,
a nightshade. It is a nightshade, and that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
What's fascinating about indoctrination is if you pay a lot of money for your education or something like that, no one's going to come and tell you otherwise. Even if you're presented with information that completely disregards your education, it's called
Hmm.
cognitive dissonance. So the more you pay for that TV, the more that it's God, the more that
Yes,
it's telling you how it is and what it is, and you're not going to deny, the Almighty.
it's 8K, man. Yeah. Well, something about Frankenskies too, and what you're working on now, and the what they're putting in the atmosphere, of course, is oftentimes wonder about the Schumann resonance itself changing and that making people ill. Because if we look at the Schumann resonance, and I've done some, empirical research, which is now called conspiracy theory, uh, uh, um, it didn't used to be so hostile. In general, the Schumann resonance was just kind of smooth. It's like 7.8 hertz, and
Hmm.
it's, if people don't know, it's basically the resonance that naturally gets created between the Earth surface and the ionosphere. And so we have this little frequency, and this guy found it. I think that's why they call it Schumann, because his last name was Schumann. And we measure it. There's actually a couple of very prominent places in Russia actually that measure it, and so you can go every day and check it out and see what it's doing. It's only a slight delay in how it posts, and it keeps getting very white hot, and it gets like harmonic frequency offset and all this kind of stuff. So our Schumann resonance is changing, and one of the things that in the space program they found was that if people go into space and they're not connected to that Schumann resonance, they begin to feel sick. They don't do very well. So the International Space Station has a Schumann resonance generator, and so does the space shuttle, because if we get taken away from that, we don't feel well. And it's funny, Isaac Asimov, the great science fiction writer, before any of this was happening, he actually wrote about that. He was saying that if we did like space travel, we all have to have a little device that matched our planet's home frequency, or else we don't feel well. We can't stay away from our little planet very long without starting to have ill health. So I wonder, with the geoengineering that they're doing and putting things in the atmosphere like that, um, I wonder if that's part of what we're seeing that actually causes the Schumann resonance to get funny, to change, because that's going to make us sick energetically.
Definitely. Well, one thing, and it connects to the 5G, is as you make the atmosphere or the air in which we resonate, or where we live, or even the upper atmosphere, or any of this atmosphere, as you make it more metallicized, it's more conductive. And the more conductive it is, the more you can push this like 5G kind of frequency in it. So 7.8 hertz is 7.8. Let's just call it 8 cycles per second.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty slow. It's only 8 waves, peaks per second. A cycle is like a wave. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's talk about ungrounding things. So that is like when you lay on the earth is emitting this tune of 7.8 hertz, and then you kind of tune your body to that, and you release dirty electricity into the earth, and you harmonize to that. Your organs, your heart, your brain, it's harmonized to this 7.8 hertz Schumann resonance. It's the frequency at which we're attuned to naturally. And then when you're in the Schumann resonance, your body can get adjusted harmoniously, and you can be alleviated of inflammation, which inflammation leads to all sorts of problems and whatnot. So 7.8 hertz, that's how many cycles per second we're supposed to be resonating on. So imagine an environment of 5G, which is 60, what is it, 60 megahertz? It's like
or gigahertz or something like that. I think
60
it might
gigahertz.
be.
It's like 60 million cycles per second. It's insane. What about LED lights? LED lights.
Mm-hmm.
We can't even tell why they're energy efficient. They're energy efficient because they're off half the time. They're flickering on and off, on and off, on and off, so fast our eyes can't see it. They're flickering on and off like 10,000 times per second. Okay, we are resonating at 7.8 hertz, and there's all these things: Wi-Fi, our phones, our the 5G and all that, and then even smart meters, you name it, and the light bulbs, and our computer screens. Okay, this is why we need to find half of our time and find a balance off of tech, Even if it's just sitting on your couch, you don't have to be out in nature. Tech, no tech. The tech is emitting these frequencies that impact our biorhythms. They really do, and when we're not harmonized, it comes down to our endocrine system and our cells and our physiology and our neurology, and everything gets impacted basically from the bottom up. So the more time in nature that you can spend, the more harmonious you can be, and the less time on tech, the less time you're going to see inflammation in the body and get sick and what have you. But to just see it as on a hertz level, Heinrich Hertz, and it kind of hurts if there's too many. Heinrich Hertz, he studied this, and he was around so much of the radiation that he ended up having symptoms and dying in his mid-30s. Heinrich Hertz, but he still was able to coin it was named after him, right? But just imagine what the light bulbs are doing, and empower yourself. Okay, so knowledge equals power, but really it's knowledge plus action equals power. So fluoride is bad, so get rid of the toothpaste that has fluoride. The twirly light bulbs are bad, that they flicker on and off way bad and mess with your head and your neurology and your physiology. And if they break, there's mercury
Oh,
that gets in the
Mercury.
air and you get poisoned. It's so horrible. Get rid of the twirly light bulbs. Get rid of the LED light bulbs. Understand blue light. Get a blue light filter. Understand all these things. Find a balance. I like to bookend my days. When I get up in the morning, I try to not get on the computer for at least an hour or maybe 2 hours. Same with when I go to bed. Try to not look at the computer or the phone or anything for at least an hour or two before I go to bed, because it disrupts your circadian rhythm, your biorhythm, all of that stuff that puts you in this harmonized frequency that makes you a happy, healthy human being.
No, I absolutely get it. And one thing, just so I don't forget, you mentioned that people are having the higher highs and the lower lows, who are in the energetic frequency of being ascending, right? I'm going to use that term. It's a little sloppy, but I'll use it. And it is true, because I think that is a symptom that I'm seeing in so many people right now, and it's good that you mentioned that, because I think it's important. People I know are experiencing higher highs and lower lows, so they get into this, because that's sort of how things grow. You can't stay high all the time, or else you lose your mind. You can't stay depressed all the time either. But as people are going through, if we are going through an energetic shift, literally, of consciousness, um, I'm seeing people just sometimes say, "Oh God, I'm just so depressed today. I'm so down," or they have all kinds of, it's almost like they're learning to have new emotions that they did not have before, like a greater clarity and consciousness. And with that comes emotions that you didn't have. So you go, it's like, I would just mention to people, allow some crazy stuff to go on, and don't be so concerned about it. You're okay, because I can tell you, a lot of people are experiencing the higher highs and the lower lows. And I really do think it's a new consciousness, aspects of consciousness that we're emerging into, that are emerging into us through us. And with that, there's emotions you've never had. And that can be really, really disturbing at first. But if you're easy on yourself, just if you really feel weird that day, just go with it, because that weird might be the coolest thing ever. It's a mood. It's an emotion you've never had before, but it's groovy, guaranteed.
Well, it's one of the beautiful things of being a human is the emotions and the ride of emotions and whatnot, and everything is temporary, even this life. But yeah, a lot of people are really going through it, and I've been analyzing it recently. It's a lot of karmic stuff coming up because we're getting to a higher vibration. All this density needs to shed, maybe because people are shedding their stuff. But maybe some of us that have done like the work and have done a lot of mirroring and reflection and whatnot, maybe we don't have too much stuff we have to deal with right now because we've been honoring our path. I don't really know what it is, but yes, there is this spiritual energetic shakeup that's happening right now. Call it astrology, call it ascension. I think that we're on a precipice cliff of a kind of new world, that things are going to get shaken up, and likely the scenario is like they call it parallel societies. I think it'll be more a
Yes.
perpendicular society,
Oh,
where
wow.
one's stagnant and the other one's just like, see you later, alligator, join us.
Yeah, I get it. I think so. Absolutely think so. Well, ultimately, it's all one perspective is it's all the multiverse, and that we're basically just flipping between them to create the idea of space time and everything else. And so, every instant you literally can be in that new horizontal universe. And I think that's the thing, is we are in both right now. We're flickering back and forth. And so that's probably very, very disorienting, because, oftentimes really envy the boomer generation, because they're like the last generation that life was laid out for. Be born, do this, think this, eat this, buy a ranch home, have kids. You don't want stairs because eventually you won't be able to walk up and down them. Watch golf, go to eat crappy food, die. It was all laid out, and they just did it. But the very last of them are around. And I think I kind of go, I hope it works out for you. I just hope you get to finish that cycle and nothing disturbs you too much. And I don't want to be them, but I have a certain envy. Gosh, you had this template. You followed it. You did it. You were a good boomer. And now time to check out. Bless you. And see you next time. But like,
They might have to come back.
yeah, they'll probably come back. Black goo. Here's one. I don't want to keep you all day. We're gonna talk about your clothesline real quick before we go, for sure. Let's talk about that, because that's awesome. Um, we can even share a screen and look at it, or we can just talk about it. But definitely I think that everyone needs a real tinfoil hat right now. And that's right here, the real thing. You don't want tin, you want this mesh. It's the cool stuff, and, but black goo, you've probably heard of that.
Mhm.
And so it was like season 3 or 4 of the X-Files. Mulder got pulled over there to Russia, and they like gave him this like black goo, and it looks just like what we see falling right now. And we were never really sure in the TV show whether it was a virus or whether it was a kind of a vaccine for it. It was this sort of mystery tech. We didn't exactly ever figure out what it did in the X-Files. And now there's this black goo falling. And you probably heard of that. They're finding it in Nevada, but also other states. And people are seeing this black goo on things, and it looks like just like right out of the X-Files. And I mean, it's still, I haven't seen anything that absolutely convinces me, but people have supposedly analyzed it. And what I've heard, I just can't validate it yet. I'm trying to do empirical research on it, do the not conspiracy theory, but the real thing, which now the real thing is called conspiracy theory, but you know what I mean. It seems there's graphene in it and there's weird things in it. Like, what do you think? Have you heard of that? What do you think that what do you think they're spraying on us now?
So I've gone down this at the conference that I had in Tucson. I had Clifford Carnicom. He came and spoke, and I talked to him and the other activist researchers in depth about Harold Kraut's Vela and Kara St. Louis, his peer, and the paper that they wrote on black goo. And he's like the lead person that talks about it, this Harold Kraut's Vela out of
Okay.
Germany. Yeah, he's a German dude. And um, at the end of the day, it seems like we are bombarded with all sorts of stuff, different technology, different experimental stuff. It's not just mercury, titanium, and cadmium. It's like advanced stuff. And in the end, we're being embedded with like heavy metals to like act as antenna, maybe. We carry around these 5G phones. Those things are the 5G phones are becoming little cell towers, but so are we. We're becoming these conductive little things if we don't detox our bodies, if we're walking around with all this
Yes.
aluminum in us. So in the game, I think we're being bombarded with really incredibly advanced technology, but also I firmly believe it does not work if you're on a high vibration.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
certainly it certainly preys on people that are willing to be let them be preyed upon. It's like this victimhood thing. Are we here to be victims, or are we here to rise above it? Because when you're worried about me walking down the street or out in the
Hmm.
forest, if I'm somehow victimizing you by walking on a path in the forest, showing my face, you're living this like victimhood mentality, reality, frequency, and vibration of fear, where you kind of are calling in being a victim, being victimized, And as many times as you put this thing across your face, after you've done it 1 million times, and all these other billions of people are playing in this like satanic ritual, after they've all done that 1 billion freaking times, you know, they've consented to more nonsense, probably, which is like more experimentation on them, which could be the graphene, or I think almost everything seems like it's like a 1, 2, 3 or whatever. So they get the fluoride in the water, you drink the fluoride in the water, they get the aluminum in the air, the aluminum in the deodorant, and the aluminum and the fluoride slowly build in your body over 10 years or something. Then they get in your brain and they start to chemically react and bond back together because they came from one another. And then they're
Mm.
firing these little explosions in your brain. And 20 years of exposure to all this stuff, and now you've got dementia and Alzheimer's. It's like people don't want to accept, they're not willing to accept, and it's easier for them to not accept the slow attack on them. It's like, what do you mean they're putting micro doses of poison in my food? They wouldn't do that to me. It's like, actually, yeah, you're going to be sterile, but in 40 years. So same with all of these other slow kill chemical constituents where they're mixing things in our bodies. I mean, there's a video that's fascinating. I encourage people to look it up. I know I put it up on my Instagram. Spero, Spero gear is my IG, and sparrowgear.com is my one of the links to take you to the website for the clothing line. On the Sparrow Gear, I put this up recently. This video, it's a little buried, but it's the mixing of aluminum and mercury, and they mix mercury and aluminum together, and there's this chemical reaction that just it goes like 10 inches high. It's crazy.
Yes.
And imagine like you slowly get mercury in your body from the silver mercury amalgams off gassing, which you can remove. Please empower yourself. Don't be a victim. Get those removed. Get a natural dentist and get those removed. Okay, because they're slowly off gassing mercury, and you're getting mercury in your system. Then you get aluminum in your system from something else, and these two things slowly interact in your brain. Just like that, I would think that the current graphene agenda is put something in the air that mixes with something in the experimental inoculations, and then these two things mix, and then when you activate it with a 5G, which people like go and they get the 5G phone, they sign the contract for the self-own. It's like, oh yeah, I signed the contract for my self-own. It's like, who really owns yourself? Oh, I don't know. I didn't even read the fine print. Well, when they turn that 5G up and you've like toxified your body over a whole lifetime with aluminum, GMO foods, fluoride, mercury, latida, now graphene, and all this stuff in the air that mixes with these things. Something to mention about things in the air: mineralization. I've learned so much about mineralization. It's unreal. Now every morning, like I said, I'm taking this mineral supplement, which is this Irish sea moss. It's just a seaweed, but it's got like 100 bioavailable minerals. We're made up of like 112 or something minerals. So bioavailable minerals are so important. Wheatgrass, grass-fed beef, certain things seem to be pretty important. If you're certain diets, you need to get things a certain way. Make sure you get those certain things. Minerals are so important to grow like a squash nowadays that should be mineral rich. Really, the soil only needs nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. I know I've said this on your shows before. Like, I literally try to be so authentic that I'm like, I remember saying this on your show 3 years ago. I'm sorry. It's like, whatever. I'm just kidding, but I have. In NPK, these are three minerals, elements: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Okay, there's all these other things: gold, palladium, silver, cadmium, boron, like you name it. There's a whole list of elements that we should have in our electrical bodies to make us harmonized, conductive, like happy, healthy humans, right? From the bottom up. But we're actually all very mineral deficient. We're deficient in magnesium, calcium, all these sort of things. So imagine like being up to speed on your minerals. So your body's not craving, your bones aren't craving calcium. They're not craving magnesium. If you're in a place where you're not craving these minerals, okay, then when you have a toxic environment, you're exposed to it through, heaven forbid, you drink a Coca-Cola or something, or your air is super chemtrailed out, or whatever it is, you're not absorbing toxins as much or at all if your body's up to speed on your minerals. But say you're really desperate to get the minerals in your bones, okay? So your bones are really deficient, and like taking pharmaceuticals can block your ability to uptake minerals. You got to really be conscious. Like if you take pharmaceuticals, then you got to come back and really take a lot of plant based mineral bioavailable minerals. It's like you can take an easy vitamin and not absorb any of these synthetic vitamins. You got to get plant ready. And it took me a couple months of taking this CMOS to really see some impacts recently, but I can tell, and my skin and my hair and everything is getting mineralized, which is so important. So when you're up to speed on your minerals, you're not absorbing the toxins. But when you're really deficient, they'll spray radioactive cadmium in the sky for whatever they do, but it comes down on us. Whether it's geoengineering, experimenting on us, messing with the weather or whatever, there's via jets, chemtrails, there's aerosolized radioactive cadmium that's sprayed on the populations here and there. Cadmium is similar on the periodic table to calcium enough that our bones are like, oh wait, is that calcium? And we'll absorb it into our bones. when we're desperate and we need it and we want it so bad. So it's in our environment, toxic environment, our air, and then we're absorbing it through our pores and our skins into our bones. Okay.
Mhm.
If we weren't so desperate, we wouldn't be pulling that into our bones and we wouldn't have radioactive cadmium in our bones.
Mm.
So it's like if we live and honor truth in all these different ways, we end up protecting ourselves by being healthy, by detoxing, by elevating to a vibration in this realm where we're basically not harmed or impacted by these things. I mean, so many things are on a lower vibration that when you get to these higher spaces, you're not like wanting to watch porn all day or anything like that. Like things are on lower vibrations and things are on higher vibrations. When you're stuck on lower vibrations, you're thinking differently. You can be really negative, hostile, or whatever. Like we've all been in bad moods. It's
Oh,
all
yeah.
frequency. It's all frequency. When this first lockdown happened, I had a friend. He worked at a juice bar. He had to wear the. He had to go through all of it because he's in the juice bar in California. I pulled him out on his break, and I was like, "Dude, you look really sad and scared. Are you okay?" He's like, it's really getting to me. He's like all hunched over, like scared. He's in this frequency of fear because of all of the, he's in a grocery store. Everyone's freaked out. It's at the very peak of it all, like late March of 2 years ago. I gave him a hug, Craig, big hug. I walked away and I had absorbed his frequency. Maybe it's because I'm an empath. Maybe it's because energy is contagious
Mhm.
or what it is. I literally had not been afraid of all the nonsense until I gave him the hug. Then I was so weirdly sketched out, like worried about getting pulled over. Like I was just like completely in this frequency of fear for like 1 hour. I snapped out of it, but then I was able to, like, it's kind of like when you step aside and witness your ego. It's like, wait a second, ego, I'm not
Mhm.
listening to you, man.
Yeah.
You're not always in it for me, it seems. So witnessing that frequency of fear and snapping out of it and seeing it from a higher perspective, it was so rewarding. And well, there's so many things it was. It was rewarding and revealing. It was so revealing of
Mhm.
how powerful frequency can be and how you can get locked in a frequency and you don't even know you're there until you're out of it.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow, it's the world that's been pulled over your eyes. That's like as Morpheus put it, you don't
Mm-hmm.
really realize it's been pulled over your eyes until, you know, and then you wake up and you go, "Oh my God, this is look what's going on." Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, yeah, I mean, we've been going for a while. I mean, it's great to catch up, but one of the things, let's definitely talk about before you ride off into the sunset, which Matt always does at the end of these. Um, your clothesline, like you mentioned, this is something that is remarkable. And I just want to mention one thing. This is one of the older hats. It's all dirty and stuff. It's been out in the field. Well, here in Arizona, the UVs are crazy. Like they've been like 10 and or more. It's weird. It's winter. We have a lot of UV right now, more than we should. So we're kind of wondering what's going to happen in the summer. Um, if you are I know they're meant for other purposes, I guess, but if you are a person who lives like here or like in Colorado where you're up high and you've got a lot of sun energy, UV energy, these things are really nice for the outdoors, for hiking. For me, liking to go hiking, it just keeps the intensity of the, because it's a little bit thicker and harder than regular fabric. It's a little different. Well, it's not harder, but when you get one, you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
It really helps to, because the sun, especially I think when the UV is really high, can kind of tax you a little bit, make you a little bit weak. Too much sun isn't the greatest thing, but these have really helped me just deal with the intense sun here in Arizona. It's almost like you have this little you know shield that's keeping the kind of hyper intensity of the desert sun off the grape, basically.
Mm-hmm. That is a that
Yeah.
is a, that is a feature. I've researched my competition and the other silver clothing companies. They really advertise that they're UV protecting. I don't really put it out there that much because there's so many other benefits to the silver. But it is also UV protecting, which is great. It's a great feature. There's the electromagnetic spectrum is it's a wide range of stuff. There's so much light that we don't see. We only see a teeny sliver, which is Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet. And this is based on the size of the light waves. and the curvature of our eyes and the size of our eyes and the size of our retina and all that sort of stuff. So we, with the eyes, the size that we have, we can only see in this whole spectrum of all this stuff. Like if we had bigger eyes, we could see Wi-Fi and all this stuff. We could see 5G, we could see it
Oh,
all.
wow.
We can see infrared and ultraviolet, but we can't just because of the size of our eyes. So red, we can see red and orange, but a little larger carrier wave or a light wave, if you're measuring it in nanometers, but each color or each light has properties, and a little larger than red is infrared, and it's good for us. It's harmless. It's all around, but we can't see it. And the silver, it protects a range of the EMF spectrum. It's a nice metaphor to explain the silver as a fabric. It's like if you go to the beach, okay? Forget all the stuff that you just said about UV, because that's another note. But if you go to the beach and you want to protect yourself from the sun, you can put on a cotton shirt, and like you're not going to get totally fried because a lot of it's being prevented from the cotton. The silver is just like that with the cell phone light or the radiation coming off of like cell towers or cell phones. You put on the silver, and the light that is off the phones, like the radiation off of cell towers and cell phones and smart meters and Wi-Fi and all that, it's light that we can't see. And so the silver protects you from that light that you can't see, so your skin doesn't absorb it just like it absorbs sunlight and whatnot. So yeah, there's the UV element, which is great. I've been really expanding the product line. Now I've got hoodies and women's leggings and men's underwear and baby blankets and baby beanies and texting gloves, the best texting gloves in the world, the best EMF hoodies in the world, lots of different color beanies, lots of different color caps. Got all sorts of stuff. So please come and just take a look at least. SPERO is the Latin word for hope, spiro or sparrow, or you can roll the R, spero. And in Spanish, it means I hope. In French and Italian, it means hope. And it's based on the Latin word to hope. So Spiro Gear is the easy way to get there, gear.com. And if you want, I'll give you a coupon code, Actual Activist. So for Actual Activist, first-time buyers can get their coupon. It's like 10% off, but it'll help for shipping and whatnot. Actual Activist coupon code. Not plural, but check out actualactivists.com. That's my baby. And then, yeah, I encourage everyone to check out the industry. Like literally, there's an emerging industry of people adorning themselves with silver, just like the Egyptian hieroglyphs, to protect their thyroid and their precious organs from stray harmful EMF. I mean, whether it be 5G or EMP or solar flares or all this stuff, you're protected underneath the silver. So I like to wear it, even though I'm totally wired. I'll still wear the hoodie to bed. If I feel like I'm coming down with something, I'll throw on the hoodie. It's actually pretty amazing because I think our bodies get bogged down by all this.
They do for sure.
Dirty electricity and all that sort of stuff. The silver is antimicrobial, antifungal. You can sweat in it, and it's cool because it doesn't end up smelling, because it's got these properties, antibacterial properties. So silver's been really cool like that. For those that don't know, I ended up going to Asia at the beginning and trying to figure this all out. I thought that there could be copper. Copper you can't really weave into a fabric, and it's too conductive, and you have to ground the copper. There's steel. Steel fabric is used. So eventually I'd like to come out with steel clothing, but it's not as comfy. So the best one out there is silver for the properties and the comfort and all that. And I thought I was reinventing the wheel, but come to find out, in Korea, Japan, and China especially, and all over Europe, but it's manufactured in Asia. And the only manufacturing process is over there in the industrialized Asian countries. It's been going on for now like 2 decades, where they protect their newborns and pregnant women's fetuses with these aprons and maternity wear. So the maternity wear has always existed. I mean, not always, but it's been existing. I never knew it existed. Over in Asia, they don't know what EMF is. They just call it radiation. And over here, they censor you from searching over there, from finding out that they have those clothing over there. But I'm bringing it to the West, and my goal is that a rising tide will lift all ships. So me and these other EMF type kind of protective companies, whether they offer the same thing as me or not, I'm very happy that all of us are going to a rising tide lift all of our ships and bring the consciousness of the collective together to know that there's an option aside from fear. Because when people hear about 5G and they're putting the 5G tower outside my window and, oh, what can I do? There's nothing that I can do. What am I going to do? Well, actually, you can get EMF paint. If you can get yourself, if you can get
Yes.
if you get your hands on some lead paint, lead paint is actually really nice now. And I don't think children were actually eating lead. I think the petroleum industry had lead-based gasoline. All the gasoline said leaded,
Yes.
and they flipped it and made it unleaded because they were getting people sick. Like it was in the fumes. It was neighborhoods were being spewed with
That would
exhaust of
make
lead.
sense.
So they
That would make
blamed children.
sense.
They blamed children. They said, "Oh, it must be the children. They're eating paint everywhere." And those smart, evil think tanks, they were like, "Hey, we got to get rid of lead-based paint because in like 30 years we're going to roll out 5G,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh, I
and
like
we
that.
need 5G to work." You know what I mean?
Yeah. So if
So
you go
lead
in
paint.
your Yeah. So if you go in your grandparents' garage in their ranch home, look and see if you can find some old buckets of lead-based paint, and hook yourself up, because now that stuff is gold.
It,
You know,
it really is, and
it
if you get
is.
your hands on a lot, I'd be happy to take some off your hands because I'm
I
not kidding.
know.
People contact me all the time, and there's this EMF nickel paint, but it's super expensive. But I mean, I'd rather protect myself than not. So yeah, there's all sorts, and there's EMF curtains. I'm coming out with those, and I've got EMF
Oh
blanket
wow.
now. I've got a baby swaddling blanket that's organic cotton, and then the silver on the other side is. There's so much emerging stuff in this new industry, and I'm so happy to be the entrepreneur, CEO, founder of Sparrow Protection Clothing. Find me on Instagram, please. SPERO Gear. I've been getting that Instagram going. I'm seeing a little less censorship over there than on Facebook, but also Facebook. Matt Landman is still alive, holding strong and steady with the same amount of followers I did like a year ago. But I'm there, and I'm happily in jail, out of jail half the time. So please be my friend and contact me. And please, anyone who has any questions or anything like that, I'm very easily reached. frankenskies@gmail.com or on Facebook, or you can send me a PM on IG. I'm also on Telegram and all these little bit shoots and all those sort of things. You can find me pretty much everywhere. And I hope that people can watch the movie Frankenskies or share it with their friends or anybody. And I'm happy to give out DVDs. I'm also giving out DVDs, or they're on sale for $3 on my website.
Yeah, and the Sparrow gear, we have some here, and we'll be getting more. I can definitely endorse it. It's really, really nice stuff. It's sort of like the old school Lululemon of EMF protective gear. Back when Lululemon was the good stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and yeah, that really does sum it up. And I love the idea of the curtains, because I think there's a good number of people who they live in let's say apartment buildings or townhomes or something like that, and the smart meters are out there, and there's not much they can do about it. But if they actually could put like a curtain up between them and it, so that would
mm-hmm.
actually be very effective. That would at least be something. And one thing I wanted to mention before we sign off is I noticed you do have a way to wash the Sparrow gear now. You actually have a detergent for it if you want to wash it in the washing machine. Is that something I just noticed it recently, but that's very helpful, because once in a while you do have to wash these things, and now there's a method over at Sparrow Gear that actually will do it safely, and that's nice, because even though it's antibacterial and all, it gets dirty. Especially if you're wearing the underwear, I imagine you kind of want to wash them once in a while.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And all right, well, we have some amazing comments. I can't really read them all right now; it would take too long. But Claire Hughes does mention spider plants, anti-pollution plants detoxify EMF. I've heard that. You know what? And they're pretty. They're also called what, like mother-in-law's tongue. It's so flattering, I think. But so get yourself some Sparrow gear and some spider plants. And thank you so much for being on. We'll catch up again as the world turns. We'll see what happens next.
Thank you, and I appreciate you. And keep on getting that one interview a week. I look forward to
All right. I'll let you know every time. I'll send you a link. Take care.
them. Thank you.